Delighted to say Philippe Auclair is with us. Philippe, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
There's lots to talk about, and we'll talk about Qatar in a moment, but I want to talk about the Champions League and your instinct about the managerial merry-go-round that is happening at the moment. Is this a carousel that doesn't stop until Zidane is in Paris and Pochettino is in... or is that a...
Or nothing happens.
Yeah, because everything is possible here, right?
Absolutely, everything is possible. It's been a bit wild over the last few days because, on one hand, we've had information that Mauricio Pochettino was about to sign a contract extension with PSG. Some people understood that as being putting pressure on possible suitors like Manchester United so that they would have to pay more compensation. Then Zinedine Zidane is talked about as being the next PSG manager, which to people who have followed the story for a while would be very surprising. Zidane has never shown the least interest in going into that madhouse that is PSG at the moment. And also, according to people who are close to him, he would like to wait until next summer before deciding on which turn his career is going to take. He will have just turned 50. He's got time on his hand. He's also got the prospect of perhaps taking over from Didier Deschamps after the 2022 World Cup, which is avowed ambition. And so there is no reason for him to press matters and to join PSG, especially where they are at the moment. And I have to say, from a French point of view, it all feels like there's a lot of what is missing outside when we're looking outside our window, which is hot air around what is happening there. Because it starts from this premise that Manchester United is a club that you cannot refuse, and which is, of course, a conception, an idea, a concept, whatever you want to take it, but not necessarily a reality. And at the moment, despite the chaos in Paris, and there is a measure of chaos in Paris, it looks as if everybody's going to stay exactly where they are right now.
That's very interesting, because the assumption is that Pochettino will take this feeling like he has to take it now or it might never come from again. But when you're on that carousel of managing the super clubs, you can go and, he could easily manage a super club in Spain, whichever one becomes available at some point in the near future, almost irrespective of what happens in Paris Saint-Germain. It's not that it seems like you can escape Paris Saint-Germain because everybody understands the chaos, with your reputation not damaged, not necessarily enhanced, but everybody goes, well, that's just Paris Saint-Germain. It's very difficult for anybody to manage there.
Which is what's happened to Thomas Tuchel, who is having an absolutely phenomenal season, or I should say, second season at Chelsea after being sacked by PSG, which is a decision that has certainly come back to bite them. And for Pochettino, I'm not saying that Pochettino wouldn't relish the chance to go elsewhere, because he's had so many problems. And to be honest, I really thought last summer that we might have seen the last of Mauricio Pochettino at PSG. And I think we actually touched upon that, because his relationship with Leonardo is completely broken. The sports director, that is Leonardo of PSG. And he's finding it very difficult. And he's actually starting to talk about that, about what is expected from a PSG manager compared to what he's had before, be it with Espanyol or Southampton or Tottenham. And basically he has to take care of the whims of his players, some of his players. He's got also to toe the line as far as his owners are concerned. The chain of command at PSG is very, very complicated to explain. And to be honest, it's at times you wonder if there is one. But the manager basically has got to do what he's told to do. And he has very, very little leeway in the way he goes about his job. And there is no doubt that if an offer came for Pochettino at the right moment, he would take it. His contract runs until 2023. The compensation, should he break that contract, is certainly not something that is out of reach for most big clubs in Europe. We're talking about 9.5 million euros salary. So if it were to happen now, you're talking about something like 12 million euros compensation, which honestly for clubs like Manchester United is small change. But it's not that which matters. What matters is that at the moment, it's not something which, I mean, everything is possible in football, and it's possible that the one person who's going to be bitten is going to be me in 24 hours. It's completely possible. But at the moment, PSG haven't got a replacement line for Pochettino. They are in the last 16 of the Champions League. They are running away with the French league, which, by the way, if Pochettino left now, he would leave PSG with as a trophy, the only trophy, a Coupe de France, a French Cup. I think that there is something in Pochettino who would quite like the idea to finally have this major title on his honours list, which is a title of French champion, albeit with PSG after what happened last season and Lille and won the title. I don't think that the prospect of winning a title with PSG is something that is necessarily repulsive to Mauricio Pochettino. You put all these things together and you think, well, why would he leave really now? And also, Manchester United, maybe I'm very naive, but Manchester United for once were very clear in their statement when they decided to part with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Michael Carrick is taking over as a caretaker, hasn't had too bad a start, by the way. Then they will have what the Italians call a traghettatore, which is the ferryman to take them to the end of the season, which is, I think, a perfectly rational decision. People are now talking about Ernesto Valverde, who is certainly not a bad coach, a bad manager. He's shown that in quite a few clubs, be it Atletico or Barcelona. There might be other people as well who could do that job. And then we take a big breath and we decide on something in May or June. I mean, you can talk now with the people you'd like as your permanent manager, but you make the appointment in May or June. That would be completely rational. But I think that our hunger for big news, because it's Manchester United and PSG, is such that we're kind of willing these things to happen. And the rumors are circulating quite wildly at the moment, despite the fact that some of them might not have any foundation in reality.
You talk about the complicated nature of those working above Pochettino at Paris Saint-Germain. You mentioned the relatively complicated dressing room as well. It's not an easy dressing room to manage. How different would Manchester United be to that, really, given the dressing room at play there, and also this sense that the Manchester United hierarchy kind of liked having Solskjaer as something of a puppet over the last few years?
Oh, it's certain that if you got Mauricio Pochettino, you wouldn't get a puppet, especially the Mauricio Pochettino after PSG, who will definitely not want to be a puppet anymore. Even he's not quite a puppet, by the way, in Paris. It's just that he doesn't have the leeway he would like to have. Well, I think managing a team like PSG at the moment, when you've got Neymar, who was having fun in Brazil before rejoining the team, Lionel Messi, who's finally scored at Parc des Princes, and but whom I'm told already is talking about leaving and going to Miami, which is one of the destinations you will remember that were mentioned when he left Barcelona, but apparently he's not too happy there. Kylian Mbappe, who is not happy at all, and everybody knows about that, even though he's in fantastic form himself. I think he's now he's scored 44 goals in the calendar year, which is the second highest total in Europe, only behind Robert Lewandowski, or Super Lewandowski, who's got 64. So you've got three unsettled players there. You've got a team that is working without working. You've got don't forget that also Nasser Al-Khelaifi has got problems of his own. The chairman of PSG, and he's involved in a number of legal situations, which are a little bit difficult for him. You've got this Leonardo, who is really not liked at all at the club and by anybody. I'm terribly sorry, Leo. Then you've got, then I can't go into specifics, but I've heard some very credible information about what was happening within the board itself, and which indicated that a few other people were not too happy there. A very important person, Sophie Jordan, who is one of the key people at PSG, has actually just joined a new company, which is a film company, Wild Bunch. The Qataris have just bought it, and she's taken care of that, which would remove a very important person indeed from the hierarchy. See, I could carry on like this for a long time. This club is not in a good place. The team is, though. That's the paradox, and which might show that, well, perhaps Pochettino is onto something. And it's true, he's got some decent players to play with. Now, if he were to go to Manchester United, it would be much, much easier. I mean, you talk about the superstars. Basically, you're talking, I think you were, thinking of Cristiano Ronaldo and Paul Pogba.
Mm.
Well, I can't see that. First of all, I don't think that Ronaldo is somebody who poses the same problems as a Neymar, an Mbappe, or a Messi at all. In terms, yes, he might be, the problems that he might pose are not is a fantastic trainer, is an extraordinary professional. The problems he might pose is the fact that the team is a little bit, is unbalanced when he's in there, that he remains a sans pareil, non-pareil goal scorer, but you're basically, without the ball, you're playing with 10 men or 9 outfield players. Paul Pogba, well, we don't really know. It's a mystery, and but he's not, when he's in the right mood, and maybe he would be in the right mood with Pochettino, is an extraordinary asset. So he would find a squad that is probably too big and a motley crew, really, of players who don't quite fit in with each other. But I have no doubt he would be absolutely fine, as indeed will be whoever takes over for good from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, this squad is just fantastic. It needs some seeing to, and probably, I think, quite a lot of players being taken out of it, sold, moved on, and concentrating on some kind of structure for a team that has been lacking it for a while. But no, I mean, I really don't think it would be a problem at all for him.
Is there a scenario where things work out so well for Pochettino that he decides to stay at Paris Saint-Germain and that actually he isn't an option? How would that play out? What would need to happen?
I think there would need to be changes at the top of the hierarchy, or a completely different type of relationship with the hierarchy, and particularly with Leonardo, the sports director. As I said, there were rumors circulating over the last few days that Pochettino was willing to talk about extending his current contract, which expires in 2023, and go to 2024. So that is a possibility. What would be at the back of his mind that PSG looks set to lose Kylian Mbappe next summer? As I said, there are also doubts as to how long Lionel Messi would like to stay in Paris. Neymar is not getting any younger. I mean, it's possible there's going to have to be a rebuilding job to be done in 6 months' time. But it's not at all impossible. I mean, again, it depends on the type of relationship that can be promised to Pochettino, which he doesn't quite enjoy at the moment.
Okay, so it's not off the table that Manchester United put an interim manager in and don't get Pochettino in the summer as well. Like, because it's just assumed in the English papers this morning that, it's Pochettino, because, well, he was here before, and as you said, he couldn't possibly turn down Manchester United, even though we've seen Jurgen Klopp do it in the past.
It's extraordinary. I find it extraordinary. Have a look at what PSG has done both domestically and in Europe, and compare it to what Manchester United have done since the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson, and get back to me and see which one is the biggest team. Not a bigger club. Manchester United is a bigger club. Everybody know that. But the bigger team is Paris Saint-Germain. That's obvious. And it's quite extraordinary, this idea that nobody's career is complete without going to Manchester United, which is actually a crazy idea when you think that Manchester United that basically has had Matt Busby, Alex Ferguson, and then other people since the end of World War II. So it's quite extraordinary, yes. It's that the job is too big to be refused. And I mean, it could be, it is very tempting. Obviously, I'm sure there are plenty of managers who would love to be managers of Manchester United. But this idea that somehow you can't say no to them is, I think, quite arrogant, really.
Yeah, absolutely. One last point about this. Is there an obvious non-Zidane manager of Paris Saint-Germain waiting in the wings if Manchester United were to pay the compensation and Paris Saint-Germain decide, okay, yeah, grand? Who would that be?
To be honest, at the moment, there is nobody that comes straight to mind. That PSG, I mean, to be honest, they've already used a few. And I can't see anybody currently who would fit immediately in the PSG role, which is also a problem.
That's a problem. That is a big problem.
Yeah.
Paris Saint-Germain are going to
problem.
say no, then obviously, like...
I know, I mean, maybe, tell me, I mean, because basically all the big guys I've got contracts at the moment. And there is another thing to be thought about as well, is that the disruptive impact of the World Cup happening in November, December 2022. Because usually World Cups are a moment where you do have quite a lot of action on the managerial merry-go-round, but that will be at club level, that is, as well as at national team level. Because, for example, if Deschamps were to leave, I mean, Zidane would go straight into the job with the French national team, for example, which would remove a very big player indeed from the field of possible candidates. So, and I know people keep talking about Zidane going to PSG, but honestly, again, everything is possible, and they've got loads of means, and Zidane is not against the idea of making quite a lot of money, and perhaps he's starting to find it a little bit boring by the swimming pool since, now, 5 months, the last 5 months. And he's somebody who wants, action and so forth. He wants to be involved. But until now, I've always been told by people who are actually around PSG, and in some cases in PSG, that Zidane was a complete no.
Right.
And he wasn't interested. Things can change, things can change. Yeah. But it would take a remarkable turn of events for Pochettino to go to Manchester. First of all, Manchester United to take the statement they made, to rip it apart. So and tell Michael Carrick, thank you very much for taking us to the round of 16. Oh, and by the way, Mr. Valverde, Mr. Rangnick, and so forth weren't interested in you anymore. And then hire a permanent manager mid-season or almost mid-season, and Pochettino accepting to go, and PSG accepting the compensation, and being left without a manager when they have just qualified for the last 16 of the Champions League and are running away with the title. And Zidane saying, well, okay, I'm coming out of retirement to take over a club I didn't want to take care of.
It's fantasy. It is fantasy football.
I mean, when you look at it from a distance, and again in football, if we think of what happened this summer with the Ronaldo Messi situation, I think very few of us would have said this could happen. It did. But it's not quite, even if it was very unexpected, it's not quite as far-fetched as the kind of things that people are talking about right now.